9 out of 10 Crystal Skulls agree. Click like and subscribe to the Heavy Underground. Ooh, that one skull, let me tell you.
Making what has become an annual appearance in the Pittsburgh area, Louisiana sludge offenders Eyehategod infest the basement haunt known as Cattivo in the downstream Lawrenceville neighborhood on May 16, 2019 for a reckless night of hardcore punk, grind diversions, and hefty sludge stylings, joined by local hardcore icons Killer of Sheep, California grind freaks Phobia, a raucous New York hardcore throwdown from Sheer Terror, and a lesson in hardcore punk history from Detroit legends Negative Approach. Eyehategod marshal a vicious lineup of fetid aggression and virulent hostility. Local scene paragons Killer of Sheep open the show with their clamorous strain of abrasive hardcore. Led by heavy music lifers Oyo on guitar and Greg on drums, Killer of Sheep are rounded out by Trip on bass and Ollie on vocals. Forming in 2011, the combustible musical mind meld known as Killer of Sheep has earned a distinguished reputation for delivering a ferociously high-octane brand of hardcore. Setting a quick and abusive pace to open the evening, Killer of Sheep obliterate the stage with their ferocious strain of hardcore, from the band's 2012 debut EP to their most recent full-length 2017 Scorned, and even a new song. Killer of Sheep's set delivers a blustering dervish of hardcore gold. Churlish bass, rampaging guitar riffs, unrelenting rhythmic strikes, and irascible vocal fire spark a sonic inferno to begin the night's heavy celebration. Nearing 30 years of unrepentant grind devotion, California-based freaks Phobia join the fray for an extreme dose of hostility. Founding mutants Bruce Reeves and Shane McLaughlin anchor the band on guitar and vocals respectively, with Danny Walker pounding the skins incessant and Kayla McKenzie on low-end mistreatment. An upcoming EP titled Generation Coward, due in August, finds Phobia continuing to obliterate minds and souls with a pitiless devotion to all that is grind. Blasting through a brutalizing 15-song set in just around 20 minutes, Phobia unfurl a terrifying set of grinding death. Strident and virulent riffs, unsettled bass runs, and an incessant drum barrage carry the band's influential grind attack. In a twisted symmetry of abrasion, heavyweight riffs bludgeon one moment and peel flesh the next, as McLaughlin's vocals switch effortlessly between guttural death grunts and a sharply barked strafe. Bass undercurrents harangue with a persistent and pounding gurgle as collapsing riffs break into a brutalizing charge of death-addled grind. Roughing up the audience, Phobia successfully delivers a set intent on obliterating the audience with paint-scraping runs and depth-charging brutality. With a long and storied history tracing back to the band's founding in late 1984, New York hardcore mainstay Sheer Terror add even more heavy music gravitas to an already stacked bill. With original vocalist Paul Bearer leading the eternal charge, the band's pioneering crossover mugging is abetted by relative newcomers Johnny Eggs on guitar, Gary Bennett also on guitar, Jason Carter on bass, and Anthony Corallo handling the drums. With 3.5 decades inflicting harsh and strident punishment, Sheer Terror's history offers a transformative look at the changing soundscape of heavy music through the wide-ranging metallic hardcore explosion of the late 1980s and early 1990s. Fueling the mosh pit with sidewalk-sized slabs of sometimes congenial, mostly face-stomping Staten Island hardcore, Sheer Terror properly tenderizes the crowd for the filthy and fetid bands to follow. Drawing heavily from the band's debut full-length, 1989's Just Can't Hate Enough, Sheer Terror level a well-received, fan-friendly set of metallic hardcore, dotted with a few more recent tracks to keep the proceedings interesting. Gallows humor from founding frontman Paul Bearer running rampant with the band's melodically incendiary hardcore whirlwind highlight this boisterous set from this long-running New York institution. An initial run beginning in 1981 found Detroit's Negative Approach attaining mythical status in the aftermath of the American hardcore revolution of the early 1980s. Representing a virulent strain of hardcore punk, Negative Approach would decimate the Midwest until their dissolution in 1984, leaving behind a debut compilation appearance in 1981, the band's 1982 self-titled debut EP, and one full-length album in 1983's Tied Down. A handful of long unreleased tracks from a studio session in 1984 would eventually see the light of day, only adding to Negative Approach's indelible mark on the seedier underside of heavy music. In 2006, vocalist John Brannon would reform the band and has toured periodically ever since, joined by Harold Richardson on guitar, Ron Sikowski on bass, and John Lale on drums. John Brannon leads a vicious pack in this 2019 edition of Negative Approach. Nearly 40 years older, but no less pissed off, Negative Approach bulldozed through their 22-song set with a voracious urgency. Embedding smears of melody within an abrasive hardcore shell, Negative Approach blazed through a sizable portion of their discography in a blistering 30-minute set. This legendary Detroit band's influence on headliner Eyehategod is evident on many tracks as Negative Approach's grimy and abrasive take on hardcore rages from the stage. Bellowing bass blowouts and buzzsaw guitar hostility hurtle outward at a frenzied rhythmic pace, while an incessant vocal barrage from John Brannon shrieks with guttural fervor across the sonic battery. Staging a spring infection campaign across the United States, Eyehategod returns to the Steel City for a night of heaviness and hostility. Manning the front line, the usual offenders Mike Nine, Jimmy Bauer, and Gary Mader stand their swampy ground, with Aaron Hill continuing to make Joey LaCaze proud on the band's drum throne. While the additional malaise inflicted by Brian Patton's guitar is still in noticeable absence, the band's sole six-string sludge slinger Jimmy provides the Bauer power to maintain the thick and weighted riff strangulation. As the band makes their way to the stage one at a time, the crowd's energy builds for the post-amplification blues prowess of Eyehategod. With a career-spanning 1-hour set, Eyehategod overwhelms the Cattivo crowd with a filthy and fetid beatdown of the band's patented, motherfucking post-amplification blues. With a new song in the mix, our favorite New Orleans miscreants floor the audience with an overwhelming sonic crush. A putrid drum plod from Brother Hill erupts into Spartan rushes of spastic haste. Gary Mader obliterates the low end with a vicious bass harangue as Jimmy Bauer's hustling guitar pulls double duty from the distorted gutter. Nine's vocal filth only further disorients the crowd as Eyehategod stake their undisputed claim as the grime-coated kings of the heavy underground.